Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
Hello, NBA fans, and happy holidays. I'm Diesing-Fay. With me, as always, Parth.
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Parth. Getting ready for the holidays, enjoying the NBA. What about you?
You know, same old, same old. I'm excited for Christmas this Friday. I'm actually coming up to New Jersey from Virginia for a family Christmas party. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's always good to travel a little bit, see the fam.
See the fam, see those jug handles that you guys have up there. So,
But it's talking about the holidays. It's getting late in December, so we wanted to start talking about the trades. A few names have already been mentioned so far this season. So what we're going to do, go through a list of guys, give you the percentage we think they'll be traded and maybe a top location for them. So start off the list. This is somebody we know who's wanted to be traded since the summertime, and that's Markieff Morris.
you know, I think he has such a good contract that I feel like other teams would jump all over it. I think we were mentioning in the preview podcasts over the summer that this guy is like making $8 million a year for like the next 3 years. And he's made it known that he doesn't want to be in Phoenix. So I feel like he has to be moved before the deadline. I would say there's probably like an 80% chance that he's gone. And he hasn't been playing. Jeff Hornacek has been keeping him on the bench. Some games he doesn't play at all. And if he does play, he maybe plays 15, 20 minutes at most. And that's and he was a starter last year, so that's a big drop-off. So I would say there's an 80% chance he gets traded. We've heard rumors to Houston. We've heard rumors to New Orleans. And I also feel like Detroit has to be in the mix just because his brother's there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And definitely, we've known it since the summer. He's not playing. His value is not very high right now, so you think teams would try to get at him. He's a good player, and like you said, great contract. I'm going to go with 90%. I mean, I feel like they have to trade him because there's no point in keeping him around. It just seems like it's just not – things aren't going to get better. So – and I would agree with – I'm going to say Houston seems really likely. I know over the summer he was, like, working out with Houston players, was posting Instagram pictures with them, and they would definitely want to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that he has completely lost all leverage just because he hasn't played, and other teams know he wants to be moved from Phoenix. So
yeah,
Phoenix doesn't have any leverage there either in terms of trying to get equal value for him. So of course, I feel like the Suns are probably getting low ball offers at this point, just because he hasn't played, and they know he wants to be moved. So eventually, I feel like if he isn't moved though, he's going to get a lot of burn the second half of the year, and he's going to really up his stock and probably is gone over the summer. But I do think, like you mentioned, there's a really high chance that he's gone before the trade deadline.
And I think both parties want to get it done sooner than later, so that definitely helps. Another power forward, Ryan Anderson. He's a lot of rumors.
I think there are trade rumors with him going to Phoenix and Markieff Morris going to New Orleans, which is kind of weird just because Ryan Anderson has been one of the better players on the Pelicans, but the Pelicans just haven't gotten started this year. They've been bad, and Ryan Anderson is probably one of their better trade assets as well. So I feel like if they really want to shake things up, he has to be on the move. But I would say probably a 60% chance Anderson moves. I feel like he's a good asset and he's probably wanted around the league. But I haven't heard of many other teams other than the Phoenix Suns wanting Ryan Anderson. There probably are. I just haven't heard any rumors. You might have.
I heard one rumor about him going to Houston. I haven't really heard much though. I just know that there's been some talk of maybe him being shopped. But like you said though, he's been one of the better players on New Orleans, and they've been one of the biggest disappointments in the league this year. So I guess they definitely need to change it up, so they could move him. I mean, one thing, Ryan Anderson doesn't play great defense, so maybe they definitely could use help on the defensive end. I'm going to go 50% chance because I'm just not sure what they're going to find for him.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Phoenix is they have John Lure and they have Mirza Teletovic. Both, I think, are similar players to Ryan Anderson, not just because they're white, but John Lure, he plays a similar style. He's more athletic than Ryan Anderson. Doesn't shoot the ball as well, but they do similar things on the court. And the same thing with Mirza Teletovic. They do similar things on the court. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that trade is something Phoenix wants to do, but maybe it's just a good trade asset you get back for trading Markieff.
Yeah, or maybe we see a three-way trade or something like that. All right, next guy on the list, Jamal Crawford. I mean, it's been mentioned that he could be traded early in the summer. Then I've heard some rumors lately. What do you think about him?
I think the overarching theme so far is that a lot of these teams thought they would be a lot better than they actually are, and the Clippers are just another example of that. And Jamal Crawford, instant offense off the bench, but I feel like he is replaceable for this team. I don't know the chances that he'll be moved. He has a friendly contract. If he got more opportunity, I feel like he could produce a lot more. But you kind of know what you get with Jamal Crawford. He's not going to be a playmaker. He's not going to be a shutdown defender off the bench. He's going to be that guy that shakes and bakes and can put up 20, 30 points any given night. But he can also be the guy that gives you 5 to 10 points when you really need him to score more than that.
Yeah, and sometimes he can take those bad shots that really kill your offense.
Yeah, he's a difficult shot taker, and to his credit, he makes them, but you can't consistently make those all the time. So I would say that there's a 35% chance Jamal Crawford is gone. And it's that low just because I feel like nobody in the league likes the Clippers and no one wants to trade with them. I feel like that's an overarching theme with this squad, that nobody in the league likes them. So I don't see anyone trading with them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 33%. Similar thoughts as you. Jamal Crawford, he can help a team some nights and really put up points, but other nights he can really take some bad shots and kill you. And I'm not really sure like what they're going to get for Jamal Crawford or what they're looking for. Maybe they're just looking to dump the extra contract because I think they're over the cap, but I don't know who really would be interested in him.
I feel like the Knicks could be a location for him.
Yeah.
A return to Madison Square Garden, where he was actually really entertaining when he was there when Isaiah Thomas was in charge of things there. And actually, a really funny thing happened on Fan Night the other week. Or was it? No, it was inside the NBA. And they were talking about how some players just can't. They were talking about Kristaps Porzingis. And he was like, yeah, he's been handling New York really well. Some people just can't handle New York. And Ernie Johnson just burst out laughing on live TV.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a good moment. I love those TNT guys. But yeah, I think Crawford to New York, because they've kind of needed a little scoring punch off the bench. So I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's true. And then he did have some nice moments in New York, so and they could use the extra scoring like you mentioned. So let's move on to another player, Dantas Montiunas, and then his counterpart, Terrence Jones. I don't know if both will get traded, but I would think one of the two.
So I remember in the preview podcast, we were wondering which guy is going to step up and take the starting power forward slot. And so far, it's been Clint Capella, either one of these two guys. So I don't quite know what's going to go on here. I believe Capella has a much smaller contract compared to these two guys. I believe Capella was a stash player at first. So don't quote me on that because I haven't looked at the numbers, but I feel like his contract is a little more friendly than the other two guys, even though they're all rookie deals. But I want to say at least one gets moved. Well, I'll give each one of them a 50% chance. I'm not sure. Like Houston is trying to make moves. Obviously, everything they've done in the offseason, we thought that they were going to be a much better team than they currently are. And I don't know. I feel like they need to move one of them and get something back. I'm going to go 50% chance on both. As far as teams that would want them, I'm drawing a blank. So I feel
think
like
the
you
Pelicans were
help
interested
me
in
out here.
Terrence. I think Pelicans were interested in Terrence Jones.
Okay, I can see that. The Ryan Anderson, Terrence Jones swap, probably.
Yeah, so both these guys are kind of interesting players. They're both banged up. They can't stay healthy, but when they play, sometimes they're really good. Some nights they're not. I mean, I would have to say I'm 100% sure I think someone's going to get traded. One of the two is going to get traded by the deadline. So I'll give each 50% chance like you, but I'm like 100% sure they're going to make a move. They've been too bad. They also want to move Ty Lawson, someone I forgot to put on the list, but he definitely could be part of a package with one of these two.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Ty Lawson right now, and it just hasn't worked out with Houston. Just that it's not a basketball fit.
Yeah, it
So
just a lot of people hoped it did. I mean, I thought it would work out better than this. I didn't see it being this bad, even if it was bad. I think it also has a little bit to do with Ty Lawson. He just doesn't look like the same player he was in Denver. I don't know if it's the offense or whatever, but I could definitely see him getting moved, or if not, he could definitely just spend a lot of time on the bench.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Ty Lawson. I definitely don't think it's anything off the court related. I think it's more just like a basketball fit. It's not easy playing with a ball dominant guard when you're a ball dominant guard. You have to basically learn a completely different style of basketball, and playing without the ball, especially when you've played with it your entire career growing up too. It's a difficult transition, and it's not always a pretty one. So I think that's what we're seeing. And we're also seeing James Harden not play a lot of defense. So I mean that subconsciously that could kind of be like, all right, man, if you want us to play all the defense, you can do all the offense by yourself. I don't think it's a conscious thing that happens, especially in the NBA. But I feel like it's a human thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to play well when your team's playing bad too. The Rockets don't really play defense. They haven't been as good on offense as they were last season, so it makes it even tougher on Ty to play well. But another guy, Kevin Martin.
So Kevin Martin's actually been playing pretty well for the Wolves. I haven't watched too many Wolves games. I know they were my league pass pick of the year to watch, and I've seen a couple of them. But just from looking at numbers, Kevin Martin's been pretty good off the bench. He's had some pretty good games in the scoring department, and we know that he can score. And so I think like a team, he's similar to Jamal Crawford. I think he's probably a better player than Jamal Crawford at this point. Maybe that's just the opportunity. Maybe that's just because he's a better stats, worse team guy at this point, just because the Timberwolves are not nearly as good as the Clippers, even though the records wouldn't indicate that the Clippers are great. But I mean, they have elite players. So I would say a team like New York would be a fit. I know we mentioned that with Jamal Crawford, but I feel like it's the same sort of thing with Kevin Martin, a team that needs scoring punch off the bench. And I would give him maybe a 60% chance that he's moved, just because you need to kind of clear up a little bit more playing time for a lot of the young guns on this team, like Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins should be getting more minutes, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me for the Timberwolves. They obviously want the young guys to play. They let them play out the whole game, and they've done better than probably most of us would have thought early on in the season. So, and Kevin Martin, he's a veteran, and like you said, I think he's a better all-around player than Jamal Crawford. He can do the same thing, and I think he plays better defense. He can definitely get some scoring. The Knicks definitely make a good fit for that. Like we mentioned, they could use a little punch off the bench. I can't really think of any other teams. I'm trying to think of other teams that might need a 2 guard just to give them that extra scoring. But
I want to say Utah,
yeah, they
but
could.
they more. I think they would be a better fit for Ty Lawson.
Yeah,
So
they
maybe
could use some
that's.
point guard
I
help.
know. I don't know if you met. I forget if you mentioned Utah and Ty Lawson, but I don't know if that'll actually happen. I don't think I've heard anything, but I think Ty Lawson. He hasn't been playing great, but he would be an upgrade over Raul Neto and Trey Burke for sure.
Yeah, they could use a little bit of help at the point guard position, so that does make sense.
And with Kevin Martin, I know they have Rodney Hood and Alec Burks, who I really like, manning the 2 spot there. But I feel like just another really established scorer would be a benefit to their team.
Very true. Those 2 guys have definitely showed some promise, so it'll be interesting to see if they make that choice. But the biggest name probably on the list, we've been talking about trade rumors for him over the summer, and that's DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I think there's a 0% chance that he's traded. The owner for the Kings is kind of dumb, and as an Indian person, it sucks to say that that's the Indian owner's introduction to the league or introduction to the world as an owner. He's bad. He wants to fire guys left and right. Doesn't. It's a struggle out in Sleep Train, but I don't think he gets traded. I think Vlade Divac, who I think is now, I don't even know what he is. Like he could be fired tomorrow, man. Like that's the Sacramento Kings. But I think he's too smart to let go of a talent like Cousins, especially now that Cousins and Rondo are getting along, and Rondo's playing really well. Looks like someone who would want to stay in Sacramento for years to come. So I'd say it's a 0% chance that Cousins is moved. We've heard rumors with Hassan Whiteside and Dwight Howard and like a 3-way deal or something like that, but I don't think it happens.
I'll give it a 15% chance. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I got to give it a chance. You know, some teams are going to throw crazy offers at him because DeMarcus Cousins is a great center, arguably the best in the league. And like you mentioned, there's been some rumors to the Heat, to Houston. There's also been rumors to Boston, who could offer him a ton of picks.
Yeah,
so,
Boston's the interesting choice if the Kings want to look towards their future, and that would probably mean not re-signing Rondo to a bigger deal and probably going with a point guard in the draft or even with Darren Collison.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they did make that trade with Boston, they could come up with a lot of picks. There's even been rumors of like a 3-way trade, I think, DeMarcus Cousins to New York. So,
really?
So a lot of crazy stuff. It included Kristaps Porzingis, but it was just a rumor. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if Knicks fans, after booing him on draft night, want to trade Kristaps Porzingis right now. Gosh, New York Knicks fans are ridiculous.
Yeah, that is just like the Knicks fans in a nutshell, though. That just tells you all you need to know.
Prisoner of the moment.
All right, another big-time center. Well, he's not as big-time as he once was. Dwight Howard.
Dwight, man, are we in for another Dwight Mare? Just because, man, I know people on Twitter were bringing up similarities of what he said post-game a couple games ago and relating that to stuff he said back when he was with Orlando right before Stan Van got canned. You know, I want to say he stays. I don't want to say he gets moved just because he's still, I mean, he's getting a lot of money, but he's going to opt out. And I don't know if other teams, I don't know if he guarantees himself residing with the same team if they want to make a move, right? Because if you're another team at this point and he's made his intention knows that, hey, he wants to opt out of $23 million to possibly sign a bigger deal, even though I don't know who would pay him more than $23 million a year. But if he wants to opt out for a bigger deal because the salary cap is rising, I wouldn't want to be someone that takes a possible rental
Yeah,
and give up pieces for that. So I don't know. I don't think he gets traded. I think they find a way to work it out in Houston. Are they successful? I don't think so, but I mean, I think they'll manage to figure it out for this year at least.
yeah. I mean, Dwight Howard's one player that teams do not trust.
Yeah.
You talked about Dwight Mayer, whatever. So I knew that firsthand. He's saying he wants to go to the Nets, then he signs an extension. And I'm just like, all right, Dwight, whatever. So I wouldn't invest in him. I'd say there's probably like a 5% chance. Maybe somebody's really desperate and they think Dwight can help them push them to that next level. But he hasn't been great. So I don't even know what team should really be that interested in him.
And I don't understand him trying to get a bigger deal when he doesn't even play every night.
Well, maybe
Like, this isn't some like Brock Lesnar part-time WWE stuff. Like, you got to play. But I mean, he has his issues, back, knee. He's had injuries before, so I get the maintenance program. But I feel like if you want to be paid like a superstar, you have to play like a superstar and also be available. So, I mean, I'm like you. I'm going to give him. You gave him 5% chance. I don't even think it's that high. I don't think there's a trade market for Dwight at this point. He's still a decent player, but for what you'd probably have to give up for him and then pay him if you want to invest in the future, I don't think any team wants to do that at this point. So I'm going to give it a 0% chance.
0%. The only reason I really give it a 5, maybe if Dwight tries to force himself out like we've known he's tried to do in the past.
Yeah, fair enough.
Another guy who's been mentioned, trade rumors since all summer long, Joe Johnson. He's not having a very good season and has a crazy contract.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of the Nets this year. I know they're your team, so I'm sorry about that. But they've been pretty bad.
And also
I did catch that game at Oracle where they almost beat the Warriors, but other than that, I haven't really been watching the Nets at all. So I don't even know if Joe Johnson's playing well or not. So I'm going to leave this one up to you.
He's not playing well. He's having a really rough season. Father time seems to catch up with him right now. He used to be, you get him the ball in the post, he gets into that like little mid-range area, shoots a teardrop, gets in there, gets past guys. He's not making those shots, not getting in position this year. It's just tough to watch. I feel bad because Joe comes, he plays every night, just isn't playing well. I'm going to probably say it's a 3% chance he gets traded because I don't think anybody wants to take on that contract for the way he's playing.
Do you think it's a system fit with him? Because I was under the impression that, I always thought that Joe Johnson would be a solid player throughout just because he has, like you mentioned, he has that post game. He's a bigger 2-guard, probably even a bigger wing player. He has that post-up game. He's smooth. He has a grounded sort of game that doesn't really get that affected by a decline in athleticism. So I always thought he would be effective. Is it a system thing? Is he not getting as many shots with Jared Jack at point guard? What do you think it is?
I mean, he's not taking as many shots, but he's also just not making his shots that we're used to seeing him make. Like we said, the post game, he used to always just take the smaller defenders in the paint and get inside and shoot that little runner over the top, and he's just not making that shot anymore. He doesn't look as smooth. He's not as aggressive. I think he says he's a really confident player, but I want to say he lost a little confidence because he's a lot more passive this season than I've ever seen him be, especially with the team he's playing with. You think he would be a little bit more aggressive. Because, I mean, it's not like anyone's out there is like a super great offensive player other than Brook Lopez. So if Joe Johnson wants to put up a ton of shots, I mean, he's probably one of the better offensive wing players they have, probably the best one.
Yeah, I'm going to go – I'm not even going to give a percentage because I have no clue on this one. So
yeah.
Whatever you say goes for Joe Johnson.
He's not playing well enough. I don't think I think his contract's $25 million. So, like, no one wants to pay that.
He expires after this year, though, right?
Yeah, he does expire. So, I mean, it's not like the Nets would get anything really back for him. I don't know.
The thing is, you'd have to probably take – like, his contract is probably going to be better than the ones you get in return because a lot of them are – I doubt you get all expirings back for an expiring Joe Johnson. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, you'd probably have to take on some guys that –
you don't want to take on, and that
for multiple years too. So I'm with you on the being low percentage chance that he gets traded.
Exactly. But let's move on to FanDuel. All right, this week there's not a lot of like crazy plays, so it's a special small forward edition because every player I'm going to give you is a small forward. I'm going to start off with Melo. He's really picked it up. He's hitting about 5 times his value over the last 5 games. Kristaps has kind of cooled down, and Melo's kind of heating up. So keep an eye on Melo. He's not a bad price at all. He's in that 8,000 to 9,000 range. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a change at his price. Another small forward I like is James Johnson. DeMarre Carroll's out. Terrence Ross is still not starting. So James Johnson, he gives the ability to get the points, rebounds, steals, blocks, fill out the stat sheet, and he's a low-value player. So someone to keep an eye on. Another guy to keep an eye on is Chandler Parsons. There's been talk he might start getting back to 30 minutes, so he will be able to probably hit over the value he's at right now. I think he's probably in that like 5,000 range. So if you can get him before they up his price, you can take advantage of that. And that wraps it up.
Those are some nice FanDuel plays. I wish I still played DraftKings and FanDuel, but I ran out of money, so that's the way it goes with gambling, I guess. All right, so last week we had Mike on, and he went 3-3 for you. So your record is at 19-16, and I also went 3-3, and I'm at 23-13. So this week, I know I wanted to do a express edition of Games of the Week. So there's only 4 games. But to start it off tonight, Monday, December 21st at 10:30 on NBA TV, OKC at the Clips.
This is a good matchup. This is definitely a nice matchup right here. 2 big-time teams. Who am I going to go with? I'm going to go with OKC.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to pick the Clippers because they're at home, but we all know Clippers games aren't a home event for the Clippers. It's a Lakers town, and I think those Laker fans might come out and see maybe some future Lakers in Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. At least that's what they like to believe. I don't believe that, but that's probably what they like to believe. So yeah, OKC for me. On Tuesday, December 22nd, 7:30 on League Pass, Detroit at Miami.
I'm going to go with Miami. I don't think Detroit's at their level yet. I think Miami's going to let them know.
I'm sorry, who did you say?
I said I'm going to go with Miami. I don't think Detroit's on their level yet, and I think Miami's going to let them know.
You know, being a Miami fan, they played Detroit in Detroit a couple of weeks ago and got smacked. Like, absolutely smacked. They lost by like 15, 20 points. So I think Miami's been playing better as of late. I'm going to go with Miami as well.
Well, especially because you just told me that with the 5th, when they got like a beatdown, then they definitely have a point to prove. Dragic is playing better too, right, lately?
Who is?
Dragic.
Dragic is playing better. His family is now back from Slovenia. He had a infant, so they didn't want to travel. So now that I'm not sure if it's a boy or a girl, but now that their child is a little bit older, his wife and the kids are back in Miami. So I think that's helped him a lot. So let's just get more continuity with the starting 5 and then playing with the right rotations and allow him to play his up-tempo style that he did in Phoenix. All right, moving on. Wednesday, December 23rd at 7:30 on League Pass. Darren Williams and his new Dallas Mavericks return to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm just going to hope I can get an early Christmas present, and the Nets are going to take this one.
Yeah, I don't believe that will happen. I'm going to go with Dallas. I'm excited to see the reception that Darren Williams gets because I think he single-handedly screwed the Nets. So he was the reason the Joe Johnson trade happened. He was the reason the terrible Garnett and Pierce deals happened. And he just didn't deliver the way everyone thought he would, especially with the contract he had. Not really his fault that some team wanted to give him that much money, but there are unfair expectations sometimes when people see zeros next to your name. So he didn't play well in Brooklyn, but he's been a lot better this year in Dallas, and I think he's gonna play well in Brooklyn as a visitor.
He's looked a lot better this year than he has probably the last 2 seasons with the Nets. He showed moments during the last 2 seasons with the Nets, but it's definitely a lot more consistent, feel like, on the Mavs. And he looks a lot more confident and relaxed.
Yeah, maybe that's just being at home in Dallas. All right, the final game of this Express edition of NBA Games of the Week. It's the game everyone's been waiting for. It's on Friday, December 25th, Christmas Day at 5 on ABC. The Cleveland Cavaliers at the Golden State Warriors.
I posted the games of the week yesterday, so I've been thinking about this matchup since and who I'm going to pick, and I really still don't know to this moment.
Yeah, I don't know either. So I hope you come up with something soon because
I'm going to go with the Cavs. I'm just going to say LeBron wants to prove something this game. He wants to beat the Warriors really bad.
So I think Harrison Barnes isn't talked about enough, and I think he's vital to the Golden State Warriors. So if he's back, I think the Warriors will win. But without knowing, I'm going to pick the Cavs as well.
What's the latest on Harrison Barnes?
Dude, I have no clue. He had an ankle injury, and obviously it wasn't just a typical sprain because Klay Thompson had a typical sprain, and he's already back. I don't know if it's a high ankle sprain. I don't know if there's just stuff in his ankle is just not healing correctly. I have no clue. It's been what, like 3 weeks now?
Yeah, it's like coming up on a month, I want to say soon. So
yeah,
and they haven't really said a lot about it either. That's what's kind of weird.
It's because they've been winning.
Yeah, true.
You don't hear about it because they're winning. If they were losing, it would be when is Barnes coming back to fortify their starting rotation. But because they're winning, you don't hear a lot about it. And they also have other injuries like Steve Kerr, and that's another thing I wanted to just quickly touch on. Injuries in the NBA have been a really big deal the last couple of seasons. I feel like they've been more prominent than years past, and now even the coaches are getting hurt. Steve Kerr is hurt. Jason Kidd's about to have his hip replaced or a hip surgery or something, and he's out indefinitely. So this is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. But that wraps it up for today. Happy holidays to you, Parth. Happy holidays to everyone listening.
Yeah, happy holidays, and enjoy your week.